Hey, so today I wanted to record a video talking about something that feels like I've been wanting to address for a long time now, and that is the relationship between chronic illness recovery. So when I talk about chronic illness recovery, I'm talking about the widest possible spectrum, right? I'm talking about long COVID, I'm talking about chronic fatigue syndrome, I'm talking about ME, I'm talking about chronic pain, I'm talking about fibromyalgia, I'm talking about IBS, I'm talking about stress problems. Like literally, the stuff that I'm trying to share, it can apply to every single human being. So I hope, to keep sharing. But anyways, that's an aside. What I want to talk about here is how does this play into awakening, right? Because these are the two things I talk about on my YouTube channel. So this feels like an important video to make, is what is the relationship between these chronic illnesses that people experience, with all these symptoms, all this, pain, fatigue, whatever it is, and, weird symptoms, and awakening, because I talk a lot about awakening. And I know for a lot of people, awakening is quite a spiritual term and it seems a bit out there, and maybe just your mind doesn't have a box to put it in, right? When you hear for health content and you hear me talking about spiritual awakening, it's like, what the fuck? So that's exactly the point of this video, is I want to really try and bring these two worlds together, which is always what I'm trying to do. Literally all of the videos I'm talking about where it sounds like I'm just talking about health, the perspectives I'm sharing are all from the perspective of awakening as well. Sorry, my street's pretty noisy. What I mean by that is it's all about uncovering resistance, right? It's all about getting to the roots of suffering. So I've made videos like this before, but I just always feel like it's helpful to try and tackle these ideas from different perspectives to try to make it accessible for more and more people, right? So I know that there's people that watch my content that are already interested in awakening, and I love it. I see it in the comments. But I also know that there are people that maybe find my videos through health-related topics and they have no clue what I'm talking about if they're just here because they got long COVID. So that's the introduction, let's say. What I want to unpack now is how understanding that my physical symptoms were a part of a bigger process. That can sound strange, but that was an important thing for me to understand. All right, I was using Angelo DeLullo's work a lot, reading his book, listening to his talks, and he was talking about this big awakening process that unfolds. And he was describing how everything that's happening in your life is not apart from this process, right? Whether that's physical symptoms, whether that's relationship issues, whether that's, work issues, all of it is related, and it goes both ways, right? So for me, chronic illness was what led me into awakening, and then it was very helpful to have covered all of the health terrain first, because then I knew that whatever came up, it was just part of this process, if that makes sense. Because what I'm comparing it to is, I know of other enlightened, awakened teachers who then struggle with health problems, right? Weird chronic pain, this, that. And for me, sometimes it just seems so obvious what's going on, but I forget that I covered all this health terrain, which I then let go of, because awakening was the letting go of everything and all identity and all need to be anybody to collect experience, all of that, letting it go. So I often forget the things that are kind of just implanted in my way of seeing the world now that I gained from the whole health journey. So this is the topics that I'm trying to interrelate. Here's a point that Matt and I covered. Matt So, his YouTube channel is not Matt Garrett, because now I talk with two Matts and they're both great guys. Matt, long COVID Matt, said, when Matt and I were having our conversation, one of the points that we mentioned that I think is very applicable here is understanding how these physical symptoms can come out just as a part of the awakening process. So for example, somebody like Frank Yang, and I know others like this, right, who went on this deep meditation path, right? They just started meditating a lot, and very hardcore meditation. Daniel Ingram is another one that comes to mind. Taking it all the way, right? Really not just using meditation for whatever surface level benefits, but for insight, deep insight into the nature of existence. And along this path, there are phases, and there's different terminology to use here, right? I know saying things like Kundalini will put a lot of people off, because it did for me, right? 2 years ago, I remember reading about Kundalini, and I was like, what the fuck is this nonsense? But I totally, that is not my perspective at all anymore. But I do understand how, using this kind of spiritual terminology can be very off-putting. So I want this to be accessible to as many people as possible. But understanding that there are these weird energetic processes that start to unfold as a part of this awakening journey. And if we have no context for it, we will put it into the box of, I am having a health problem, right? I am sick. I am, right? And there's a balance, right? There are things we need to address. This is the whole point of my channel, right? I've got so many videos talking from the health perspective. I was speaking with Matt Sauron again earlier today, and we were talking about what I want to speak about more online now. And the point is, there's a lot of content already on health, but I'm trying to do the more nuanced work of packing that in with awakening and all that. But the point I wanted to make with the Kundalini and the meditation is that I know many people that go down this spiritual path, and then at some point all of the kind of physical stuff starts happening, but they've got a different context to put it into, right? For like, their mind is putting it as, this is Kundalini, this is energetic work, and it's the same thing, right? But it's much more fearful for the mind when we don't understand what it is, when we have no context, and we believe that our health is just deteriorating. So that's the point of this video, is I really want to try and point to the overlap of these two things, right? That how chronic illness and health challenges can be a doorway to deeper awakening, and how the awakening path can lead to chronic health challenges. But it's all just, at some point, this body work needs to be done, basically. It's like the shadow work of awakening. You need to work with all of the repressed trauma, the repressed emotions, and it will come out quite physically. And that's okay. That's all the techniques I share, is how do you deal with this physical stuff. But just having a broader context to put this all into is incredibly helpful, right? To know that these physical symptoms that you're struggling with are a part of a bigger process that you're not entirely in control of. And the good news is you don't need to be in control of it as well. But the more that your ego and your mind tries to fight and take control of the situation, the more you're going to struggle. So yeah, I mean, that's, I think, the important points around the relationship between chronic illness and awakening, and just see if you can open up to whatever life is giving you. Everything becomes so beautiful at some point, right? And then there's still challenges, but even the challenges become beautiful at some point. So also, I just wanted to share that I was there. I was in the dumps. I was, very what you can use any terminology, in depressed, afraid, whatever, all these things, and that's just not the case anymore, right? It was the best thing that's ever happened to me, but it also didn't happen to me. I didn't do anything, right? It's like everything becomes so paradoxical. But yeah, I want to share that because I want you to know that if you're open to the possibilities here in your life as it's unfolding, incredible things are possible, but transformation is uncomfortable. I see this spread a lot in spiritual stuff I see on Instagram, and it's a very good pointer. They talk about, when it feels like your life is falling apart, that's the way change happens. it sounds so cliche, really. Like I'm thinking of saying things like, you know, you're a worm transforming into a butterfly, and that's so cliche. I don't even like the sound of that coming out of my mouth, but it's a point, right? It's like when everything is falling apart and the ground is shifting beneath your feet, it's making space for something much deeper. But if your mind fights it, that's when you get stuck, right? So, and it's everything's happening exactly as it needs to, though. Like looking back at my own path, all the periods of stuckness had their role as well. They had their place. I couldn't have done the deep surrender and letting go work that leads to the freedom if I hadn't gotten stuck. I had to get stuck, and then I had to let go. So wherever you are, whoever you are, whatever you're dealing with, it's all going to be okay. But it might not be okay for your ego. That's the thing. It's about what are you identifying as. So I know this can be confusing, and I know I'll probably get comments saying, but it doesn't feel okay. And that's the emotion work, right? If it doesn't feel okay, it doesn't feel okay. That's the emotion work. But you just want to start to see that you are this vast thing that all of these experiences are arising as. And that can sound so esoteric and off into the future. I remember when, you know, enlightened teachers I used to listen to would talk like this, and my mind just couldn't comprehend that they were talking about my experience as it was, but I was just looking at it through a straw. I think I got that from Sam Harris. He's like, I'm butchering the quote completely, but the idea was it's like when you're suffering, it's because you're looking at the sky through a straw and you're upset with, you know, how small it is, something like that. It's a good quote. So yeah, once you can start to see that you are the space that the emotions are rising, the thoughts are rising, the symptoms are rising, everything is arising and passing in this space, and the awakening process is shifting from identification with the things that are arising, right? So the thought, the fears, the emotions, instead of being that, it's paradoxical, right? Because there's different layers of awakening. Like sometimes people can get stuck in a witnessing phase as well, where they feel like, okay, I am this separate awareness that is noticing everything. And that is a useful phase, but eventually that dissolves too. And then it's just, there's nothing apart. There's no separation. And things just get weird and cool. So yeah, that is that for today. You got this. You got this. You got this.